The emergency signal reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. It came from deep space, traveling faster than light through the quantum relay network that connected all civilized worlds. The message was simple, but desperate. Please help us. We are dying. Captain Maria Santos was drinking her morning coffee in the communications center when the signal arrived. She nearly dropped her cup when she heard the strange musical voice speaking broken English through the speakers. The voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, beautiful but sad. This is resonance of hope of the Cathara people, the voice continued. Our worlds burn, our children cry. The hegemony empire takes everything. They capture our people. They steal our gifts. We have nowhere left to run. Maria set down her coffee and called her superior immediately. Within an hour, the message was playing in the United Colonial Government building in Geneva. Within 2 hours, it was on every news channel across Earth. The Cathara were a peaceful species made of living crystal. They looked like walking gemstones that sparkled in the light. They could speak to each other using beautiful music that came from their bodies. Most importantly, some of them could read minds and see the future. This made them very valuable. To the wrong kind of people, the hegemony empire was exactly the wrong kind of people. They were a massive military force that conquered worlds and enslaved anyone useful. They had been hunting the Cathara for 20 years, capturing them and forcing them to use their mental powers for war. The few free Cathara left were scattered across distant planets, hiding and running, but they were losing. The hegemony had found their last safe worlds. In 6 months, maybe less, there would be no free Cathara left in the galaxy. The news hit Earth like a bomb. Within hours, protest crowds gathered outside government buildings. People held signs saying, "Save the Cathara, and Earth must act." Social media exploded with pictures of Cathara, families and stories of their suffering. Jennifer Walsh was a teacher in Chicago. She watched the news with her 8-year-old daughter Emma when they showed pictures of young Cathara hiding in caves. Emma started crying. "Mommy, we have to help them," Emma said. "They're just kids like me." Jennifer hugged her daughter tight. "I know, sweetheart, I know." Across the world, similar scenes played out in millions of homes. Humans saw the Cathara children and could not look away. The crystalline beings were so different from humans, but their fear and pain were the same. Parents were parents. Children were children. Suffering was suffering. The Global Emergency Council met that same day. President Sarah Kim of the United Colonial Government stood before the Assembly of World Leaders. Her face was grim, but determined. "Cathara have asked for our help," she said. "The Galactic Refugee Council supports their request. The question is simple. Do we act, or do we watch a peaceful species die?" The vote was not even close. 237 nations voted yes. 3 voted no. 5 abstained. But voting to help was easy. Actually helping was much harder. The Cathara homeworlds were 3 months away by the fastest human ships. The hegemony had over 500 warships in the area. Earth had trade relationships with dozens of species, but no major military alliances. If humans went to fight, they would go alone. Admiral James Morrison stood before the Defense Council later that week. He was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in the colony wars and the pirate conflicts. He knew war better than most. "The hegemony outguns us," he said bluntly. "Their ships are bigger, and their weapons are more advanced. If we send a military fleet, we will lose. The Cathara will still die, and we will lose thousands of our own people." The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Sarah Chen spoke. Up. She was younger than Morrison, with sharp eyes and a reputation for creative thinking. "What if we do not send a military fleet?" she asked. Morrison frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Cathara asked for help. They did not ask for an army. They asked for rescue, for aid, for a place to go where they can be safe. The hegemony will not just let us walk in and take refugees," Morrison said. Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. Who said anything about walking? Meanwhile, far from Earth, the hegemony empire was watching the human response with amusement. Admiral Vexthar commanded the hegemony 4th Fleet from his flagship, a massive biomechanical ship grown rather than built. The ship's living hull pulsed with dark energy, and its weapons could crack a moon. Vexter was not human. His species, the Sectar, were reptilian creatures with 4 arms and cold yellow eyes. They had evolved on a world of constant war, and they respected only strength. To them, humans were weak and soft. "The humans are mobilizing," reported his intelligence officer, Subcommander Kraux. "Our spies say they are preparing a massive aid convoy." Vexter laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Of course they are. Humans always think they can solve everything with charity and kind words." "How many ships?" "Initial reports suggest over 100 vessels, Admiral. Mostly cargo haulers and hospital ships." "Perfect," Vexter said. "We will let them come. When they arrive, we will destroy their escorts and capture their cargo ships. The humans will make excellent slaves, and their supplies will feed our forces." He turned to look at the tactical display showing the Cathara system. 3 small planets orbited a dying star. The last free Cathara were hiding on these worlds, maybe 50,000 beings total. Soon they would all belong to the hegemony. "Word to all ships," Vexter commanded. "Prepare for easy hunting. The humans are coming to us." Back on Earth, the great mobilization had begun. Spaceports across the planet buzzed with activity. Massive cargo ships were loaded with food, medicine, and supplies. Hospital ships were stocked with medical equipment and staffed with volunteers. Transport vessels were prepared to carry refugees. The news showed endless footage of the preparations. Families donated everything they could spare. Medical workers volunteered for the dangerous mission. Engineers worked around the clock to prepare the ship's data-tiered. Emma Walsh convinced her mother to let her make care packages for Cathara children. She filled boxes with toys, books, and drawings she made herself. One drawing showed a human child and a Cathara child holding hands under a smiling sun. "Tell them we are friends," Emma wrote in careful letters at the bottom. Similar scenes played out across Earth. Humanity was mobilizing, not for war, for the largest rescue mission in galactic history. The fleet would carry enough supplies to support 1 million refugees for a year. It would have hospital ships that could treat any known injury or disease. It would have transport capacity to evacuate every Cathara in the system. What the news did not show was the second mobilization happening in secret. In military bases hidden around the world, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Admiral Chen walked through one such facility, watching as technicians worked on equipment that looked nothing like medical supplies. "Are we ready?" she asked her aide, Colonel Roberts. Roberts nodded. "The preparations are complete, Admiral. When do we leave?" Chen looked at the massive ships visible through the hangar windows. To anyone watching, they looked exactly like civilian cargo haulers. The disguise was perfect. "Tomorrow," she said. "Tomorrow we show the galaxy that human kindness and human strength are not opposite things. They are the same thing."
Ow.
The hegemony was expecting charity. They were about to get justice instead. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the secret hangar beneath the Swiss mountains. Round her, workers moved like ants, preparing ships that would change the course of galactic history. The massive vessels looked exactly like cargo haulers from the outside. Inside, they were something very different. "Show me the Mercy's gift," Chen said to her chief engineer, Commander Torres. Torres led her to the largest ship in the hangar. Its hull was painted white with red crosses, the universal symbol for medical aid. Large letters spelled out Earth Medical Corps along its side. It looked peaceful and harmless. "Open the cargo bay," Torres said into his radio. The ship's belly split open like a flower. Inside, where medical supplies should be, Chen saw rows of fighters. Sleek, deadly ships designed for space combat. Each one could move faster and hit harder than anything the hegemony had ever seen. 48 fighters, Torres said proudly, each one piloted by her best. The hegemony will think they're looking at a hospital ship until it's too late. Chen nodded and moved to the next vessel. This one was painted gray with the words "Food Relief" in multiple languages. Torres opened its cargo bay too. Instead of food containers, Chen saw massive railgun batteries and missile pods. "The generous heart," Torres explained.
On the outside.
She's carrying enough food to feed 1 million people for a year. On the inside, she has enough firepower to crack a battle. Cruiser in half. They walked through the hangar, looking at ship after ship. Each one told the same story. The Peaceful Dawn carried prefab housing modules that could transform into shield generators. The Helping Hand's medical equipment could become repair drones for damaged ships. The Unity's Promise looked like a refugee transport but could carry 2,000 Marines. How many ships total? Chen asked. 57 in this facility alone, Torres said. Another 143 in facilities around the world. Every single one looks like exactly what we said it would be. Every single one is actually a warship. Chen felt a cold satisfaction the hegemony thought they were dealing with. Soft humans who solved problems with hugs and medicine. They were about to learn that humans could be kind and deadly at the same time, 3,000 light years away. Resonance of Hope stood on the crystal cliffs of Cathara Prime, the last free world of her people was beautiful in the dying light of their ancient sun. Crystal trees rang like bells in the wind. Lakes of liquid starlight reflected the sky. Should have been peaceful. Instead, hegemony ships filled the sky like dark clouds. Every day more arrived. Every day the noose grew tighter around the last Cathara worlds. The humans have responded, said Harmony of Sorrow, her oldest friend. His crystal body was cracked from years of running and hiding. They are sending aid. Resonance of Hope felt a flutter of hope in her chest. How many ships? 200? Maybe more. Cargo ships, hospital ships, refugee transports. They are bringing everything we need to survive. And weapons. Resonance of Hope asked quietly. Harmonio Sorrow's light dimmed. A few escort ships, nothing that can stand against the hegemony fleet. Resonance of Hope closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, touching the thoughts of her scattered people. Fear, desperation, the cold knowledge that this was probably the end. But also something else. Hope. The humans were coming.
Oh, maybe.
They would find a way. We must trust them, she said finally. They are our only chance. Far above, Admiral Vexter watched the Cathara world through the eyes of his flagship. The biomechanical vessel lived and breathed around him, its organic computers processing thousands of data streams. Hunting sensors tracked every Cathara. Life sign on the planet below. Status report, Vexer commanded. Sub-Dash Commander Kraux slithered forward on his forelegs. All Cathara population centers are identified. Our forces are in position around all 3 planets. The last refugee ships have been destroyed. There is nowhere left for them to run than the humans. They departed Earth 7 days ago. Intelligence confirms the fleet composition. 197 cargo and medical vessels. 15 light escort ships. No major warships detected. Vexter's forearms gestured dismissively. 15 escorts against our 230 ships. The humans are either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both. Admiral Vexter laughed again. He was looking forward to this. The hegemony had conquered 47 species in the last century. All of them had fought back with everything they had. Desperate last stands, heroic sacrifices. Final defiant speeches, all useless against superior firepower. But humans were different. Humans would probably try to negotiate. They would offer to share the Cathara refugees. They would plead for mercy. When their escort ships were destroyed, they would surrender rather than watch their precious aid workers die. Deploy the trap formation, Vexter ordered. I want them to think they have a chance to reach the planet. Let them get close enough to see their failure before we crush them. Back on Earth, the public face of the mission continued. News cameras showed the massive fleet preparing to depart from Luna Station. President Kim gave a speech to the assembled crews. You carry with you the hopes of all humanity, she said. You go not as conquerors, but as friends. You bring not weapons, but mercy. Show the galaxy what it means to be human. The cameras showed Captain Jennifer Walsh, who had volunteered to lead one of the medical ships. Her daughter Emma had made her promise to bring back pictures of the Cathara children they would save. Captain Walsh wore her civilian medical uniform and spoke about the importance of helping those in need. What the cameras did not show was the other, Captain Walsh. Her real name was Colonel Jennifer Walsh, Special Forces. She had fought in 3 wars and led more covert operations than most people had heard of. Her medical uniform hid body armor rated to stop hegemony plasma fire. Her medical supplies included enough weapons to arm a small army. The deception was perfect. Even the Cathara believed the humans were coming to help, not to fight. The Hegemony Intelligence Network reported exactly what they expected to see. 200 ships full of soft-hearted humans bringing hugs and bandages to a war zone. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable. To anyone watching, it looked like a large cargo vessel painted with the Earth's colonial service emblem. The bridge looked like a civilian command center, complete with navigation charts for refugee routes and medical emergency protocols. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her communication officer, Lieutenant Park. Chen nodded. Around her, the bridge crew looked like civilian volunteers. They wore casual clothes and medical badges. They carried tablets instead of weapons. They looked harmless. They were anything but harmless. Every volunteer was a trained military officer. Every tablet was a military computer linked to the ship's weapons systems. Every civilian on the bridge could fight a war and win it. "Signal the fleet," Chen said. "Begin final approach to the jump point." The massive human fleet moved slowly through space, broadcasting humanitarian messages on all frequencies. They announced their peaceful intentions. They requested safe passage to deliver aid. They followed all the proper protocols for a relief mission. 3 light hours ahead of them, hidden by the ship's real sensor arrays, was the actual Terran defense fleet. 500 warships running silent and dark. The most powerful military force humanity had ever assembled. They would arrive at Cathara Prime exactly 1 hour after the aid convoy made contact with the Hegemony fleet. Chen smiled as she watched the tactical display. The Hegemony thought they were setting a trap for helpless humans. They had no idea they were walking into a trap themselves. "One more thing," Chen said to her crew. "When this starts, remember what we're really doing here. Crystal people down there are counting on us. Those are real refugees who need real help. The Hegemony has been hunting them for 20 years. Today the hunt ends." The crew nodded grimly. They were warriors, but they were also rescuers. They would fight not for conquest or glory, but to protect the innocent. That made them more dangerous than any army the galaxy had ever seen. In her personal quarters, Chen looked at a picture her aide had given her. It was Emma Walsh's drawing of a human child and a Cathara child holding hands. Below it, in careful letters, were the words tell them, "We are friends." Chen folded the drawing carefully and put it in her pocket. When this was over, she would personally deliver it to a Cathara child. But first she had a war to win. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cathara system. 200 ships appeared on every sensor screen, moving slowly and broadcasting peaceful messages. They looked exactly like what they claimed to be, a massive humanitarian. Convoy Admiral Vexther watched from his command throne as the biomechanical walls of his flagship pulsed with excitement. The ship could smell the coming battle and was eager to feed. Around him, his bridge crew prepared for what should be an easy victory. "The humans are requesting safe passage," reported Subcommander Kraux. "They say they carry medical supplies and food for the Cathara refugees." Vexther S4 arms spread wide in amusement. "Of course they do. Signal the fleet. We'll let them come deeper into the system. They are too far from the jump point to escape. We spring the trap." The human convoy moved forward at a steady pace. Their ships were slow and clumsy, designed for cargo rather than combat. Their 15 escort ships were small and outdated. Against the Hegemony's 230 warships, they had no chance at all. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The Hegemony fleet was positioning itself exactly as she had predicted. They were spreading out to surround the human ships, confident in their overwhelming advantage. "Distance to the planet?" Chen asked. "At 40 minutes at current speed," replied Lieutenant Park. "Perfect." Signal, all ships. Begin the final approach. Make sure we look scared. Across the human fleet, captains began broadcasting worried messages. They reported detecting the massive hegemony force. They requested immediate assistance from Earth. They sounded exactly like civilian crews who had walked into something far worse than they expected. The hegemony ships moved closer, forming a perfect trap. Soon, the humans would be surrounded with no way to escape. Vexter could already taste victory. The human cargo ships would make excellent prizes. Their crews would become valuable slaves. 20 minutes later, the trap was ready. Signal the humans, Vexter commanded. Demand their surrender. The communication channel opened. On the main screen, a human face appeared. It was Admiral Chen, though Vexter did not know her rank. She wore a simple civilian uniform and looked appropriately frightened. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Relief Fleet," she said. "Are on a humanitarian mission. We carry medical supplies and food for refugees. Please, allow us to pass." Vexter laughed, the sound echoing through his bridge. "I am Admiral Vexter of the Hegemony 4th Fleet. You are trespassing in Hegemony space. Your ships and crews now belong to us. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to your value as slaves." Chen's face hardened slightly. "We cannot do that. There are innocent people on those planets who need our help." "Then you will join them in death," Vexter snarled. "You have 30 seconds to surrender before we destroy your escort ships and take your cargo vessels by force." Chen looked directly into the camera. Her voice became very quiet and very cold. "Admiral Vexter, I need to tell you something important. My name is not Captain Chen. It is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We are not a relief convoy. We are a military operation. And you have exactly 30 seconds to withdraw from Cathara space before we demonstrate why Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world." Vexter blinked his yellow eyes in confusion. "What?" "Timer starts now," Chen said, and cut the communication. For a moment, the hegemony bridge was silent. Then Vexter roared with laughter. "The human thinks she can threaten us. Destroy their escorts immediately." The hegemony ships opened fire. Plasma beams and missile volleys launched toward the small human escort ships. Should have been a massacre. Instead, something impossible happened. The human cargo ships began to change. Hull plates slid away to reveal massive gun batteries. Fake civilian markings burned off, showing military hull numbers underneath. Engine signatures spiked as military-grade reactors came online. The slow, clumsy cargo haulers suddenly moved. Like predators, the Mercy's gift, the ship that looked like a hospital vessel, split open like a flower. 48 fighters poured out, moving faster than anything the hegemony had ever seen. They were piloted by humans, beings who had evolved in a gravity well that would crush most galactic species. The GI forces that would kill a hegemony pilot were nothing to them. The generous heart revealed its true nature as its cargo bay opened. Instead of food containers, massive railgun batteries swung into position. They fired metal slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. The first volley punched through 3 hegemony cruisers like they were made of paper. Across the human fleet, the transformation continued. Medical ships became fighter carriers. Food transports revealed themselves as heavy weapons platforms. Refugee ships deployed marine assault craft. What had looked like a helpless convoy was actually a perfectly disguised battle fleet. But that was not the worst shock. Long-range sensors detected something that made Vexter's blood freeze in his veins. Behind the disguised fleet, space itself seemed to tear open. Hundreds of hyperspace rifts appeared at once. From each one emerged a human warship. The real Terran defense fleet had arrived. 500 ships of war appeared in perfect formation. Dreadnoughts that could crack moons. Carriers that launched fighter swarms like angry hornets. Destroyers that moved like dancers and hit like hammers. At their head was the legendary TDF Indomitable, the most feared ship in human space. The human fleet that the hegemony had thought they were facing was nothing compared to this. This was the combined military might of a Class 12 death world. This was the force that had conquered its own violent home planet and then reached for the stars. "Impossible," Vexter whispered. Our intelligence said, ... Your intelligence saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Admiral Chin's voice came over the communication channel again. Did you really think we would send our people into danger without protection? Did you think we would let innocents suffer while we had the power to stop it? The first exchange of fire lit up the space around Kithara Prime. Human railguns fired streams of metal that moved too fast to dodge. Hegemony bioships tried to return fire, but their targets were no longer where they expected them to be. Human. Fighters danced between the massive hegemony ships like deadly butterflies. Their pilots pulled maneuvers that should have killed them, twisting and turning in patterns that made no sense to beings from normal worlds. They came from Earth, where everything was trying to kill everything else. Space combat was just another day at the office. The hegemony had prepared to fight a refugee convoy. Instead, they found themselves facing the most dangerous military in the galaxy. Worse, they had let the humans get close before revealing their true nature. The trap they had set for the humans had become a trap for themselves. On Kithara Prime, Resonance of Hope stood on her crystal cliff and watched the sky burn. The musical chimes of her people's voices rose around her as they saw impossible hope blazing above them. The humans had not come to rescue them, they had come to save them. There was a difference. The humans are fighting for us, Harmonio Sorrow said in wonder. They risked their own lives for strangers. Resonance of Hope felt tears of liquid crystal run down her face. They are not strangers anymore, she said. They are friends. In space above, Admiral Chen stood on her bridge and watched the battle unfold. Her ships were winning, but victory was not enough. The hegemony had to be defeated so completely that they would never threaten the Kithara again. They had to learn that some things were worth fighting for, and some fights were worth winning no matter the cost. Signal all ships, Chen said. Wow. Then what happens when you threaten the innocent? Show them what it means to face Earth. The battle for Kithara Prime had begun in earnest, and the hegemony was about to learn that humans did not just rescue people, they destroyed the things that made rescue necessary. The battle around Kithara Prime turned into a nightmare for the hegemony fleet. What should have been an easy victory became a desperate fight for survival. The humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. Commander Lisa Park piloted her fighter through a storm of plasma fire. Her ship moved in ways that broke the laws of physics as other species understood them. She pulled turns that created 8 times Earth gravity. Her bones should have shattered. Her blood should have pooled in her feet. Instead, she laughed as she dove toward a hegemony cruiser. Ox 3, she called over the radio, launching a missile that found its target in the cruiser's engine bay. The biomechanical ship screamed as its living hull died in fire and vacuum. Park was not alone. 200 human fighters swarmed through the hegemony formation like angry wasps. They moved in 3 dimensions while their enemies still thought in 2. They came from a world where the sky belonged to predators, and they had learned to be the ultimate predators. Admiral Vexler watched his fleet die around him. Half his ships were already gone. The humans fought with weapons that should not exist, in tactics that made no sense. Worse, they fought with a fury that terrified him. Fall back to defensive positions, he ordered. Protect the planet bombardment ships. But the humans had already thought of that. The disguised relief ships that had carried medical supplies were now deploying something very different. Boarding pods shot toward the hegemony bombardment vessels like metal bullets. Each pod carried 20 human marines. They wore armor that could survive anything short of a direct hit from a battleship. They carried weapons designed to fight in the corridors of enemy ships. Most importantly, they carried the rage of people who had seen the innocent suffering. Sergeant Ney. Maria Rodriguez felt her pod slam into the hull of a hegemony bombardment ship. The cutting charges fired, burning through the biomechanical armor like it was paper. She and her squad dropped into the alien corridor beyond. The first hegemony soldier she saw was aiming a massive gun at the planet below. The weapon could kill 1 million Kithara with one shot. Rodriguez put 3 rounds into the alien's center mass before it could even turn around. Target neutralized, she reported. Moving to secure the bombardment control room, her squad moved through the ship like ghosts. They had trained for this kind of fight for years. urban warfare, shipboarding, close-quarters combat in zero gravity. The hegemony soldiers were brave, but they had never fought anything like humans. The aliens were stronger and had better weapons. But humans were faster, smarter, and much more vicious. They came from a world where everything was trying to kill them. Fighting was not something they did. It was something they were in 10 minutes. Rodriguez and her squad had taken control of the bombardment ship. The weapon that could have killed millions of Cathara was now pointed at other hegemony vessels. The same scene played out across the battlefield. Human marines took ship after ship. They moved through enemy vessels like a plague, turning captured weapons against their former owners. What had been a hegemony advantage became a human advantage in minutes. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The battle was going exactly as planned. The hegemony had expected to fight a defensive battle against desperate refugees. Instead, they faced an assault by the most experienced warriors in the galaxy. Admiral reported, Lieutenant Park. We're getting a priority transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through, Chen said. Resonance of Hope's musical voice filled the bridge. Admiral Chen, there are Cathara prisoners in the hegemony camps on the second moon. Our people have been held there for 3 years. Please, can you save them? Jen felt something cold settle in her stomach. Prisoner camps. The hegemony had been torturing captured Cathara for 3 years, using their psychic abilities as weapons. She thought of Emma Walsh's drawing in her pocket, of the child who had asked her to tell the Cathara they were friends. Colonel Walsh, Chen said into her communicator. Change of mission. Take your battalion to the second moon. Clean out those camps. Colonel Jennifer Walsh was already suited up in her combat armor. Her medical ship had just finished deploying. Its real cargo, 1,000 of Earth's finest Special Forces soldiers. They were trained for exactly this kind of mission. Copy that, Admiral Walsh said. It will be our pleasure. The human assault ships dropped toward the second moon like falling stars. The hegemony had built their prisoner camps deep underground. Thinking they were safe from rescue attempts, they had not planned on humans. Human forces did not just rescue prisoners. They destroyed the things that made people prisoners in the first place. Walsh's battalion hit the moon's surface and went to work. They moved through the underground complex like water through cracks. The hegemony guards had never faced anything like human special forces. These were people who had trained to fight in every environment, against every enemy, under every condition. First camp they found made Walsh physically sick. Cathara prisoners were chained to machines that drained their psychic energy. Many had been there so long their crystal bodies had started to crack. Some had gone completely dark, their inner light extinguished forever. Walsh put her fist through the nearest guard's chest and began freeing prisoners. Her soldiers spread through the complex, cutting chains and destroying torture equipment. They moved with the efficiency of people who had done this before and the fury of people who hated what they were seeing. Command, this is Walsh, she reported. We have found approximately 2,000 Cathara prisoners. Many require immediate medical attention. Request emergency medical teams. Teams are already en route, Chen replied. Good work, Colonel. But Walsh was not done. In the deepest part of the complex, she found something that made her blood boil. A special torture chamber where young Cathara were being broken in to serve as psychic weapons. Children, some no older than Emma, chained to machines designed to turn them into tools of war. Walsh had seen many terrible things in her career. This was worse than all of them combined. She activated her emergency beacon, calling every human soldier on the moon to her location. When they arrived, she gave them an order she had never given before. No prisoners, she said quietly. Not here, not after this. The humans who had come to save the innocent had found something that required justice instead. They delivered it, with the efficiency that made them the most feared soldiers in the galaxy. Back in space, the main battle was winding down. Admiral Vexther's flagship was one of the few hegemony ships still fighting. His fleet was gone. His bombardment ships were captured. His prisoner camps were burning. Everything he had built in 20 years of conquest was being destroyed in a single day. Admiral, his communication officer, reported, The humans are demanding our surrender. Vexter looked at the tactical display. 50 human ships surrounded his flagship. Behind them, the rest of the human fleet was already beginning rescue operations on the planet below. They had not just defeated him, they had replaced him. Signal the humans, Vexter said finally. Tell them, ... tell them we surrender. But Admiral Chen had one more surprise for him. When the communication channel opened, the face on the screen was not Chen. It was Colonel Walsh, broadcasting from the torture complex on the second moon. Admiral Vexter, Walsh said, her voice deadly calm. I am standing in your prisoner camp. I have seen what you did to children. I want you to know that your surrender is not accepted. The human ships opened fire as one. The flagship that had terrorized the galaxy for decades died in a brief, bright flash. With it died the last of the Hegemony Fourth Fleet. The Battle of Kythera Prime was over. Humans had won completely. But more importantly, they had done something the galaxy thought was impossible. They had saved an entire species from extinction and made it look easy. On the planet below, Razonsov Hope felt the last hegemony ship die. Around her, her people sang with joy for the first time in 20 years. The humans had kept their promise. They had brought more than aid. It brought hope. In space above, Admiral Chen began the real work. The fighting was over. Now came the rescue mission they had always claimed to be running. It was time to show the galaxy what humans meant when they said they were here to help. The smoke was still clearing from the destroyed hegemony fleet when the real work began. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching her ships transform once again. This time, they changed from instruments of war back into instruments of mercy. The generous heart opened its weapon bays and began deploying the food supplies it had always claimed to carry. The medical ships that had hidden fighter squadrons now revealed their hospital facilities. The refugee transports that had carried Marines began preparing to carry families to safety. Status report, Chen requested. Lieutenant Park checked her. Displays. All hegemony ships destroyed or captured. No human casualties in the main fleet. Colonel Walsh reports successful liberation of all prisoner camps. Medical teams are treating freed Kythera now. Chen nodded. The military mission was complete. Now came the part that mattered most to her. They had promised to help refugees, and that promise was real. Everything else had just been about making sure they could keep it. On Kythera Prime, Resonance of Hope stood in the crystal gardens where her people had gathered. Around her, thousands of Kythera sang in harmonious voices. It was a song of joy, but also of disbelief. After 20 years of running and hiding, they were finally safe. A human shuttle landed nearby. Admiral Chen stepped out, wearing her real uniform now. She walked slowly toward the Kythera leader, aware that her people had just witnessed something that changed everything they thought they knew about humans. Resonance of Hope, Chen said, her voice gentle. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your message asking for help. The Kythera leader's crystal body rang like a bell as she moved. Her voice was musical and warm. Admiral Chen, we called for aid, expecting charity. You came with justice. Chen reached into her pocket and pulled out the drawing that Emma Walsh had made. The paper was creased from being carried through battle, but the picture was still clear. A human child and a Kythera child, holding hands under a smiling sun. A little girl on Earth made this for you, Chen said, offering the paper. She wanted me to tell you that we are friends. Resonance of Hope took the drawing with careful crystal fingers. Her inner light grew brighter as she looked at it. She drew us as the same size, she observed. Equals, not one helping the other, but two friends together. That is how humans see friendship, Chen said. We do not help because you are weak. We help because you are worth helping. There is a difference. Around them, human medical teams were already working. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had volunteered for what she thought was a peaceful mission, was treating Kythera, who had been injured in the camps. Her hands were gentle as she worked, but Chen knew those same hands had loaded ammunition during the battle. We brought everything we promised, Chen told Resonance of Hope. Food for 1 million people for a year. Medical supplies for any injury. refugee ships to take your people anywhere they want to go. All of it was real. But you also brought war. Resonant Saw of Hope said quietly. Chen met her crystalline eyes. We brought the end of war. But the hegemony will not hunt your people anymore. Word is already spreading across the galaxy. The Fourth Fleet is gone. Their prisoner camps are empty. Their admirals are dead. No one will follow their example. On the second moon, Colonel Walsh walked through the ruins of the prison complex. Her soldiers were helping the last of the freed Cathara into medical transports. Many of the prisoners were children who had been captured years ago. He moved slowly, uncertain if this rescue was real or just another cruel dream. One young Cathara, barely more than a child, approached Walsh carefully. Her crystal body was cracked and dim from years of torture. She held something in her small hands. "Human warrior," the child said in broken English. "I made this for you." She offered Walsh a small crystal sculpture. It showed a human soldier, holding a Cathara child, protecting her from dark shapes in the background. The artwork was crude but beautiful, made from pieces of the child's own crystal body. Walsh knelt down to the child's level. Her armor made her look like a giant metal monster, but her voice was gentle. "What is your name, little one?" "Wise." "Called Weapon of Sorrow," the child said. "But I do not want that name anymore." Walsh felt tears on her cheeks. "What would you like to be called?" The child thought for a moment. "Hope of Tomorrow. That is what I want to be." Walsh took the crystal sculpture carefully. "Then that is what you are. Hope of Tomorrow. And you are going home." 3 days later, the evacuation was complete. Every Cathara who wanted to leave had been given passage to safe worlds. Those who wanted to stay were given supplies to rebuild their civilization. The human fleet had delivered exactly what it promised, hope for the future, but the galaxy was watching. The story of the Battle of Cathara Prime spread from world to world, carried by refugee ships and news broadcasts. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss what had happened. Representative Zarn of the Altarian Republic stood. "Before the assembly, the humans lied to us," he said. "They said they were bringing aid ships. Instead, they brought a military fleet." Earth's ambassador, an elderly woman named Dr. Elizabeth Harper, rose to respond. She had been a teacher before, becoming a diplomat, and she still spoke like one. "Representative Zarn," she said calmly, "you brought exactly what we said we would bring. Food, medicine, refugee transport, and aid workers. The fact that our aid workers were also soldiers, our medical ships were also fighters, and our food transports were also weapons platforms does not change what we delivered. You deceived the entire galaxy," Zarn accused. Dr. Harper smiled. "No, Representative. We showed the galaxy something it had forgotten. Kindness is not weakness. Helping others is not surrender. We are gardeners by nature, but gardeners must sometimes clear away the weeds so the flowers can grow." The hegemony's remaining forces received the message within a week. Admiral Termax, commander of the Second Fleet, read the report from Cathara Prime 3 times before he believed it. An entire battle fleet, destroyed by humans pretending to be refugees workers. "Send word to all hegemony forces," he ordered finally. "Avoid human space at all costs. Do not engage human ships under any circumstances. Mark all human territories as forbidden zones." His aide looked confused. "Sir, are we retreating from one species?" Termax looked at the tactical analysis again. The humans had not just won a battle. They had won it while simultaneously conducting the largest rescue operation in galactic history. They had destroyed his people's most powerful fleet while saving every single refugee they had promised to save. "We are not retreating," he said quietly. "We are learning. The humans are not like other species. Their strength does not come from hate or fear. It comes from love. That makes them the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy." Back on Earth, Emma Walsh waited at the spaceport for her mother to return. When Colonel Walsh finally appeared, she was carrying something carefully wrapped in cloth. "Did you save them, Mommy?" Emma asked. Walsh knelt down and unwrapped the crystal sculpture that Hope of Tomorrow had given her. We saved them all, sweetheart. And one of them made something for you, Emma gasped as she saw the beautiful crystal art. It's us, the human and the Cathara, just like in my drawing. Her name is Hope of Tomorrow, Walsh explained. She wanted to thank the little girl who drew a picture of friendship. Emma held the sculpture carefully, watching the light dance through the crystal. Mommy, are we friends now? Really friends? Walsh hugged her daughter tight. We're friends. Emma, the kind of friends who protect each other, the kind of friends who never let bad people hurt the ones we care about. Admiral Chen stood in the ceremony hall on Luna Station, watching as President Kim presented medals to the crews who had served in the Cathara mission. But the real reward was not the medals. It was the knowledge that 50,000 Cathara children would grow up free because of what they had done. Admiral, President Kim said as the ceremony ended. The Galactic Council wants to know if we plan to conduct more humanitarian missions like this one. Chen smiled. Tell them we will help anyone who asks for it. Tell them we will protect anyone who needs protection. And tell them that when humans offer friendship, it comes with a promise. We will never let our friends face danger alone. Word spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Earth was no longer just another world of traders and diplomats. Earth was the place you called when everything else had failed. Earth was where they would risk everything to save strangers simply because it was the right thing to do. The hegemony empire began to crumble as worlds rebelled, knowing that Earth would support them. Slavery became impossible when the enslaved knew that humans would come for them. Tyranny became expensive when the tyrants had to face the possibility of human intervention. And in the crystal cities of New Cathara, the first world, the refugees, founded with human help, children played games where brave humans saved the day. They sang songs about Admiral Chen and Colonel Walsh and Dr. Kim. They told stories about the day the sky filled with human ships that looked like angels but fought like demons. They remembered that there were people in the universe who would cross the void to help strangers. They remembered that kindness backed by strength was the most powerful force in the galaxy. They remembered that humans had taught them the most important lesson of all.